Hello everyone, a very warm welcome. It's lovely to have you all this afternoon, where we will be shining the spotlight on the Environment Leaders Programme, recognising essential skill development through environmental action. Thank you for giving up some valuable time in what I'm sure is a very busy afternoon. And without further ado, we will jump right into it. So this comes from our Environment Leaders report. While this is up, just take a moment to scan it. You don't need to read every box, but just notice what kind of change is happening here. So regarding those stats in the middle, 92% of learners feel proud of what they've achieved. 92% say that the skills that they've picked up really matter for their future. So this isn't a box ticking environmental education. This is identity formation. Regarding those skill bars as well, communication, teamwork, problem solving, self-belief, green skills, these are the things that we say we want as educators, but we rarely assess properly. So what's interesting is that the environmental context isn't replacing leadership development, it's actually accelerating it. Likewise over here, 3,000 plus hours of project leadership accumulated in under 6 months. Again, this isn't a one-off awareness week, this is real sustained responsibility. So as you look at this, I just want you to ask yourself, where do your learners currently get to lead something real with consequences that has visibility and has purpose? And ultimately, the Environment Leaders Programme answers that quiet but really urgent question that I'm sure we've all faced in our classrooms. How do we move students and learners from eco-anxiety to eco-agency? I just wanted to share a couple more quotations. So what matters here isn't climate change as a topic as such, it's leadership as a lived experience. And for a lot of these learners, this is the first time that they've been trusted to actually run something. So not just help, not just attend, but really lead something. And I think that's what makes the Environment Leaders Programme so unique and so important. So this afternoon is deliberately straightforward and grounded. We'll start with a brief welcome and a spotlight on the programme itself, what it is, and just as importantly, what it isn't. We'll look at where it fits and how it can be used to empower your learners, and then we'll go beyond the hype, treating environmental leadership as a recognised qualification rather than a gimmick or a bolt-on. We'll share some evidence from delivery, some learner outcomes, confidence shifts, and then what we consistently see in practice. And to do that, I'll be joined by a special guest who I'll introduce in just a moment. We'll do an implementation reality check. We'll talk about time, staffing, and delivery models. And I'll be really clear about what investment is required, both financially and operationally, so no surprises. And then finally, we'll look at why this is right for your setting and what sensible next steps might look like if you want to explore this further. Again, the aim is to have you leave knowing whether this is useful to you, not just feeling sold to. So a bit of a welcome from me. My name's Rob. I am Business Development Manager at the Leadership Skills Foundation, and I'm joined by 3 guests this afternoon, one of them being Denny. Denny, can you say hi?
Hello, my name's Denny and I work with Centre Engagement here at the Leadership Skills Foundation. My role within the Environment Leaders Programme is to be the relationship manager, so the main point of contact and for any support you may need throughout the duration of the course. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Martin.
Hi there. So yeah, I'm Martin Foster, Head of Education and Families at the RSPB, so that's the Royal Society of Protection of Birds, and I've been involved from the outset really with the Environment Leaders Programme, helped to establish it right at the beginning.
Perfect. And last but not least, Nina.
Hi, I'm Nina. So I head up sustainability at the Eastern Education Group. So we are a group of colleges and schools in East Anglia, and we've been running the Environmental Leaders Programme now for 3 years.
Lovely, thank you. And we'll hear from Nina more directly later on about how she's found it and how it's been implemented across her centre as well. I thought I'd include this slide as well. I know that everyone knows who WWF and the RSPB are, but Martin, if you could give us a run through of the top two, please.
Yeah, no worries. So, well, WWF, as you probably kind of know, they're one of the world's largest conservation organisations. They sort of work across a whole range of different areas, but particularly focusing on climate change, protecting endangered species and sustainable living. And kind of a huge global brand, huge global kind of organisation. And then RSPB, who I work for, we're the largest UK nature conservation charity, working across kind of habitats and species across the UK and actually internationally as well, but much less so than WWF. And at the RSPB, we often talk about taking action for nature with a bird's eye view. It's sort of a kind of way we describe what we do. And I think that really kind of describes this course actually and how it works in many ways. I think it's that sort of ability to help students to step back from kind of their kind of day to day, understand some of those big issues, and then start to be able to identify what can be done as an individual or as a part of a community to help tackle those big issues in a sort of really meaningful way. So yeah, that's WWF and RSPB.
Thank you. And then just from our perspective as Leadership Skills Foundation, formerly Sports Leaders UK, we're now the Leadership Skills Foundation. And again, for over 40 years, teachers and educators have used our approach to develop leadership skills in their learners effectively. So each of our awards and qualifications is designed very much with the learner at the heart of it. And it's about those core leadership skills, some of which we will cover later on. I think the important thing to pick out there is that we are an awarding body, and all of our awards and qualifications are accredited. So effectively what that means is we have to uphold a really rigorous standard for teaching and assessment, and we report regularly to Ofqual. So it's a mark of trust that you know all of our qualifications meet those standards. So the Environment Leaders Programme itself, this slide gives you the headlines, and I'll try and add a bit of colour as we go. So the Environment Leaders Programme is a set of leadership qualifications, not a campaign or an awareness course. And as Martin said, it's been developed with WWF and the RSPB alongside us at Leadership Skills Foundation. So the environmental focus here is very much credible as well as educational. And what really matters is the blend of leadership and green skills. So learners aren't just learning about environmental issues, they're learning how to lead people, plan activity, and take responsibility through projects that have a real world impact. The qualifications are available at level 2 and level 3. And again, for Scottish colleagues, that does map to the SCQF as a level 5 and a level 6 respectively. And they're designed very much to be largely self-guided. So that gives learners ownership while keeping the delivery manageable for you as educators. Again, in terms of delivery, you'll hear me say this a lot this afternoon, it's intentionally flexible. Some settings embed it within the curriculum, others run it through enrichment or tutor time or project weeks. Really, it's designed to adapt to your setting, not the other way around. And again, more on that in just a moment. So at its core, this is about moving young people from caring about the environment to empowering them to actually do something meaningful within it. So a little bit now on where it fits and whom it works best for. So as I alluded to a moment ago, centres have the freedom to choose how best to implement this programme. We don't operate on a kind of a start and an end date as such. There's no fixed date in the calendar that you have to kind of run your course between. It really is what's best for you, and we'll support you throughout your entire delivery. So some choose to offer it as an extracurricular offer and run it in their kind of enrichment blocks or after school provision, or directly within the geography or science curriculum. So this flexibility is really, really critical because it removes some of that timetable pressure, and it opens access for learners who might struggle with that kind of full academic load or really rigid structure. And tutors and kind of centres that we work with are really clear that it enhances their curriculum and enrichment offer rather than competing with it. So it adds value without displacing the core teaching. And again, I think almost more importantly, the learners themselves. So learners frequently describe this as the first time that they've ever been given a chance to lead anything. So in schools like Colton Hills, whom we'll see a little video of in a second, they have high levels of disadvantage. This program really functions as a leveler. So leadership is earned through commitment and action, not prior attainment or confidence. So the program gives value or skills that are often invisible in classrooms, as I said a moment ago. Things like organisation, teamwork, communication. These are the things that we expect learners to pick up via osmosis through their time at school, and then are always amazed when they don't. This gives a very, very tangible, clear way to implement those skills in learners. So learners who are quieter or maybe less academically confident are able to demonstrate a kind of a real growth when taking part in this program. Again, centres are encouraged to design projects that respond to their local context. Again, that might be parks, wildlife, community awareness, biodiversity. Again, we'll see some examples in a moment. And this anchors the learning in real lived experience and helps learners to see themselves as contributors to their own community rather than just participants in a course. Again, tutors working with learners with low confidence have reported to us pretty regularly that there are visible changes in self-belief, in willingness to speak and plan, and quantitatively learner confidence increased by over 2 points on a 10-point scale, according to our most recent impact report, and 81% reported believing in their ability to lead others more after completing the program. So I think ultimately this isn't enrichment for enrichment's sake. Learners undertaking the level 3 or the SEQF level 6, they gain a qualification in leadership skills and UCAS points as well. So there are a full 8 UCAS points up for grabs for the level 3/level 6 as well. So that's particularly powerful for learners who might not otherwise see themselves as leaders. I'm going to share a short video that we've recently developed, which highlights the impact of ELP. Because I can sit here and wax lyrical about it all afternoon, but really you kind of need to hear from learners and the other centres. I will apologise, it's a little bit meta. I actually appear in this video, so you will be hearing from me in the video and then also live. So I do apologise, you'll be getting a hefty dose of me this afternoon, but hopefully this plays without any technical hitches. Okay. Again, apologies, you will hear more from me now. Again, I think really powerful hearing from centres themselves and how the programme has been used to impact both the natural world and the students themselves. So to explore this a little bit further, I'm pleased to introduce our guest from Eastern Education Group. I was going to say a little bit about Eastern Education Group, but Nina, you're probably more better placed to explain how you've implemented it. But as I said, I wanted to invite you on because you've run ELP for a few years and are therefore very well placed to outline what it's like for centres to run this programme and what success actually looks like on the ground. So I suppose the first question is, what were your motivations behind offering the Environment Leaders Programme at Eastern Education Group?
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on today. And like you say, we've run this for a few years now. So initially, when we heard about it, it was very much around the fact that it was around live projects and they were going to have some action. So that was kind of an initial attraction to it, and the fact that it's really, really practical. And then thinking logically about it, it wasn't going to take us too much time to actually invest in it, because as most people know, when you're teaching, it's really hard to actually find the time to pull together loads of resources. So we found the course to be really, really practical. The fact that the students are able to lead it, come up with an idea, use all them soft skills like you've spoken about on a number of occasions throughout today. So it's the kind of the environmental side meets work experience almost, and then actually builds up into something tangible that people can actually do something with. So the research, the plans, the teamwork, the collaboration, all of that side of it. And like I say, in terms of the commitment side, we found it to be really accessible in terms of the resources. They're readily available. You can literally just pick them up and go with them. They're really well planned out resources. So all of them things were really attractive to us when we first found out about it. And then obviously you've got the endorsement of the companies like the WWF, the RSPB, we just kind of make it a little bit more credible on top of that. So lots and lots of reasons attracted us.
Lovely, thank you. So how have you delivered it in your setting, and it might be worth outlining because you kind of deliver this in both Abbey Gate and then One. Can you give us a bit of background around those settings?
Yeah, so they're both sixth form colleges, but they're just sort of different places in the country. So we started off at One, which is again a sixth form campus. We started off and we did it as more of a sort of enrichment across both of the areas, but we did it as more of a very much student-led project at first, with sort of supportive sessions at lunchtime to help people, and they sort of just got on with it, and they had a teacher there. But as it's grown, we've sort of targeted it more at our environmental science students, our geography learners, our biology learners, because we had sort of a captive audience almost, and then we've set specific lunch break sessions for them to come and join, so that there's a little bit more teacher-led elements to it, but then also a lot of support. So just an hour a week for students to come in, drop in, get what they need for them sessions, and have that support in there. So we've targeted it at our year 12s or our year 1 learners, however you want to put it, because we found that the year 2s were getting distracted a lot by exams, and obviously that's not what we want to do. We don't want to take away from other elements of their course. We found that's worked quite well with our first year students, and as I say, having that sort of mix of tutor-led and student-focused time has been really great, and the resources are really well set up so that the students can literally just lead it by themselves, but the teacher's been really useful there just to give them a bit of guidance, getting that initial project idea set up, and then we found that the students have sort of taken it away and sort of gained momentum with their enthusiasm, really.
Lovely. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think just picking up on your point about the students, what have they thought about it? How have they found it generally?
Yeah, we've had some really great feedback. So in terms of their sort of key elements that they're loving from it, the fact that it's self-guided, they can get on with it by themselves. Like you've said, they like that sense of responsibility. They initially they were it's coming up with the idea that was the tricky bit for them, and then once they've got that, then they sort of go over and above. Really, the project management element has been really valuable to them, and that's not just in terms of the environmental side of it. It is, and I think some of your students mentioned it earlier on, it's the fact it's looking great on their CV. They're actually be able to go into an interview and be able to talk about something really passionately because they've been involved with it. They've seen all the stages. They've made not the errors, because they haven't sort of errors to make, but they've learned through their projects themselves. And one of our learners have actually managed to secure a place at Oxford on an ecology course. So having a place at Oxford University for him was his absolute ultimate goal, and this course has helped him have the confidence to go and do that and have things to talk about. So we've had some really great feedback.
Lovely. I really like stories like that, because I think from our side of it, it's rare that we actually see that kind of follow up and get that kind of feedback about where the kind of learners have gone off the back of it, off the back of these qualifications. So that's really lovely feedback. And that's excellent for that student. Yeah, I mean, again, I think just with the kind of year 12, year 13 kind of head on, I think having and again one of the learners at Colton Hills had said a similar thing, but having it on a CV, a qualification in leadership skills, that we know that's what employers are looking for. Again, especially, I hate to bring it up, but in this post-COVID world when everyone kind of struggles with those skills, and Gen Alpha they do struggle with things like oracy and communicating and that kind of project management style of work. So giving them that experience and twinning it with the environment, I think works really well. So I suppose finally, what would you say to a colleague who was on the fence about whether this was the right choice?
Well, I'm a massive advocate of it, as you can tell, because we've been doing it for 3 years, and it's just grown and grown and grown on each year. And as our staff have got more involved in it and more people want to get involved in it, so I would absolutely say go for it. I think in terms of my initial, as with any sort of initiative we take on, there's always, for me, there's kind of a few key elements. There's the time, the cost, the engagement, and the impact that it's going to have. In terms of time commitment, it's really minimal. The resources are literally there. They're fantastic resources. You can literally just go in, pick them up, and you're teaching them. The engagement side, obviously we need to take the time to sort of prepare the programme and get your students engaged with it, but after that, because it's their project that they're leading, they've got the ownership of it. It's really easy. It's you trying to get sort of a fit in yourself, because they're so keen to just sort of take it away. So they love it. And actually what we've found is, because we've done it with year 1 students or year 12 students, they've then pitched it to the next year, and then so you don't even have to do that work to get the next year on board because they've got the students doing it for you. And then in terms of the impact, there's multiple different impact layers there. You've got obviously the projects that the students are doing, the impact that they're having on the communities that they're involved in, whether that's your college community, or quite a lot of our students actually did projects with the local community, so they've actually had that bigger, wider impact. And then that skill set that we've already talked about, so that experience, that leadership, that project management, which comes into play in so many different job roles, so really valuable.
Lovely, thank you, Nina. That's really lovely to have you. Again, just to pick up on a couple of things that you've mentioned there in regards to that, the implementation and how it works. I did want to include this just to be, again, very transparent. So, what does it look like in a classroom? So the level 2 or the SCQF level 5, as the case may be, the TQT, the total qualification time, is approximately 32 hours, with 20 of that guided and 12 of that independent. Again, it depends on your setting, it depends on your learners. This is just a kind of like a rough outline of how it's set up. And then the level 3 or the SCQF level 6, obviously slightly heftier, 50 hours, but you'll see that is weighted far more heavily in terms of that being independently driven, with 10 hours of guided implementation and 40 of independent actual project kind of implementation. And again, I think the key here is that it's facilitator-led, not specialist-led. You don't have to be an environmental expert or a science lead to run it well. It helps, but you don't have to be. That's not how we've set it. You don't have to be an expert in the environment in order to run it. So I think ultimately staff are kind of guiding the learning and the projects rather than delivering very content-heavy lessons, which makes staffing far more realistic for centres. Again, the time commitment is predictable, it's manageable, it's outlined above. There's a very clear structure that blends those kind of guided sessions with independent learner activities. So, you know, staff involved can plan ahead rather than having to constantly firefight. And again, centres are running this within geography or science through enrichment blocks or as an extracurricular offer. Again, I do want to stress that it's whatever works best for you in your setting. We are not prescriptive about how you choose to implement this. We will support you the entire way and throughout your delivery. And then as Nina has very kindly mentioned, all of the resources are available and fully adaptable. They're designed to be shaped to your learners, to your context and the time that you have, rather than forcing you into a fixed model. And that includes things like free e-training for tutors and facilitators. That's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can complete it in your own time. All tutor session guides and handouts, all of the PowerPoints, they are fully editable learner evidence records, what we call LERs, where learners actually complete their work. That can be done by hand, that can be done electronically. You have a dedicated quality assurance contact that you'll meet with once or twice a year to discuss your implementation plans and then gather the evidence and accredit you at the end. And you also have a relationship manager. It will be Denny, who will kind of touch base with you throughout the year and is available for questions. Again, the idea being that you don't invest in this program and then we see you at the end of the delivery. We are doing this kind of with you, trying to make it as seamless as possible. And again, assessment is project-based, so there's no exam. So that means there's no marking, and there's more observation, reflection, and evidence of impact. And I think centres that we work with, staff tell us that it's meaningful rather than burdensome. Again, I'm conscious of time, so we shall press on to why this is right for your setting and next steps. So this slide is really about reassurance and the relevance to you. So first of all, we know that this works. We know that this program works. Across various different delivery centres, we've seen consistent learner impact, improved confidence, stronger communication, better teamwork, and genuine leadership behaviours emerging. And that pattern holds regardless of the setting, which is important. So I think these two bullet points are sort of interlinked. So it's adaptable for diverse settings. So whether you're a mainstream kind of secondary school, an FE college, an alternative provider, a youth organisation, an SEND centre, they've all delivered it successfully. We have evidence of all of those settings having delivered it successfully. And that breadth really matters because this isn't a niche offer. It flexes to different learners, to different staffing models and constraints. And again, centres are reporting very clear enrichment and inclusion benefits with that in mind. So, you know, learners are forming new friendships, they're stepping forward into leadership roles, they're developing that real sense of voice and belonging. And we've seen this in some of our impact reports from Havant, Chester Zoo and Manor House case studies. I will share some impact reports afterwards as well, so you can have a look in your own time. There's again that real strong alignment to national momentum around sustainability. So sustainability, green skills, environmental action, they're gaining momentum and importantly increased scrutiny as per the recent curriculum and assessment review. And that taps really directly into what young people already care about. So over 80% say that nature and the environment really matter to them. And that gives the programme that immediate relevance and energy. And then finally, again, as I've said before, that accreditation piece adds real weight to this. So many schools are already running eco clubs or environmental activities, and this turns that enthusiasm into a recognised qualification that adds value without adding any unnecessary pressure. So in short, learners experience something really meaningful, and staff aren't left carrying the extra workload that makes it happen. So if you're looking for something that gives learners real, genuine leadership responsibility without creating a massive headache, then this is usually a good fit. In terms of next steps, they would be to reach out to me afterwards. I will send you, everyone, a follow-up tomorrow morning, where you can book in a discovery call at a time that suits you. That might be in a week's time, it might be in 6 months' time. Again, whatever is best for you, we can discuss your priorities, your implementation plans, and look at how best to support your specific setting. As I said, I will be in touch tomorrow with some follow-up resources and a link to my booking page. In regard to investment that is required, again, completely transparent. We are a non-profit. We're more about the impact than anything else. So this is the investment required per learner. So the level 2 or the SEQF level 5 is £44 per learner. For the level 3 or the SEQF level 6, it's 68 per learner. However, we do have the Environment Leadership Programme package, which is a blend of level 2 and level 3 or SEQF level 5, level 6, 25 places for £1,200 all in. And those 25 places can be split across however you like. So you might have 10 running the level 2 and 15 on the level 3. Or 1 on the level 2 and 24 on the level 3. Again, it's how you make up that 25 is entirely up to you. But that is the investment that is required. And again, that is everything. There's no hidden charge. It is what it is. So we'll move on to a Q&A. I have had a couple of questions that have been fed in prior to that. So Denny, if any questions do come in the chat, then do give them a flag and I'll answer them live. But these are the ones that have come in prior that I thought I would feed in now. So someone had asked, do learners need prior knowledge of environmental issues to be successful? No. So the program's designed to build confidence and leadership from kind of where they are. So the environmental understanding kind of develops through the project work, but prior knowledge isn't a prerequisite for achieving the qualification. Someone else asked about the project specifically, so how kind of real do they need to be? I suppose they need to be meaningful. They don't need to be perfect. We're not expecting anyone to solve climate change. It's about those kind of small, meaningful actions. So the spec focuses on leadership behaviours. The projects can be small scale and local, but what matters is that learners take responsibility and can evidence the process. One or two more. So yeah, someone had asked, is this suitable for all learners or those already engaged? We see pretty strong outcomes from a range of learners, as I've highlighted previously. Obviously, those that are already motivated sort of thrive on ownership and stretch, whilst sort of more disengaged learners respond well to the sort of practical, purposeful nature of leading something that matters to them. And then finally, someone had asked about the assessment itself. So how is that kind of done? So the assessment is portfolio based and integrated into delivery. So I mentioned the LERs, the learner evidence records. What will happen is at the end of the learner's projects, you will have a meeting with a member of our QA team, our quality assurance team, who will ask to see a sample of the work, and then we either say yes or defer. It's very, very rare that we defer. 99 times we kind of go, yes, there is enough evidence here. We ask to see some evidence of the leadership skills that have been witnessed by the tutor, and then we accredit your learners. So it's fairly straightforward. Like I said, there's no marking, there's no onerous burden to provide lots and lots and lots of evidence. It really is as light touch as we can possibly make it. And I say that as a former English teacher who had to mark forever. So I promise there is not a massive marking burden whatsoever. Okay. Unless there are any live questions, we can leave it there. So I'll drop everyone an email tomorrow with some further information, including the recording of this. I'll include the slides as well, just for reference. I'll include a curriculum mapping grid to see how the skills taught in the course align with curriculum requirements. I'll include a case study and then a booking link with my email so you can find a time that suits you to discuss it further. For now, thank you very much for joining me, and I'm sure we will speak soon. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your evening.